Hello, everyone. This is Snehal. Good morning. I just wanted to do this video and actually put it out on YouTube. Yesterday's LinkedIn Live did not work on this topic. So this is a topic that is kind of getting hyped this week, ChatGPT. And I said, what better way to kind of apply it to the work that I do? And how can it help Agile coaches in the Agile community? And how can we leverage a technology and powerful AI in our day-to-day. Again, this talk is about ChatGPT and agility. And I welcome you. And with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So with that, I have ChatGPT open here. And you can see that, it's been, yesterday it was down. I had to use Hyperwrite to kind of demo some of the things that we're trying to leverage AI in the work that we do. And I've been actually experimenting for a long time now, to the point where I'm, in the process of trying to create, an agile chatbot that we can interact with, especially for preliminary questions. Now, granted, disclaimer here, I don't think AI takes over a coach's job or takes over a software engineering's job or any IT related position. But I think what this does, it helps us get started. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. Whenever there's someone that's new to Agile or needs some confirmation on a particular topic area, this is a way for us to be able to ask certain questions and really get response, in real time, and also be able to carry almost a human type conversation because it's conversational AI. So with that, let's go ahead and, ask a few questions. I think the biggest question that I get most of the time, especially if it's a team that's a little bit mature, what is the difference between a epic user story and a feature? So let's see how AI responds to this. Hopefully it's up and running. Give it a few seconds, let it think. Oh no, seems like it's still thinking. So it might be stuck this. Oh, there it is. All right. So again, it takes a little bit of time to get things started, but the cool thing is you're able to ask multiple questions and build off of your previous questions. So that's the conversational part of this makes it really, really, really powerful. So again, it starts off with a generic description. Right? In a software development, an epic is a large user story that is too big to be completed in one development iteration. An epic is definitely split in smaller user stories that can be completed in a single iteration. So again, you can see that if someone didn't know, this is a perfect way to get, to get an answer, right? Or to get some starting point to work with. And so that is, I think, the powerful aspect. There are many things that can be done. I can ask. So let's see. I think, we can even ask it to tell me more about a specific topic. So let's say, building off of this, tell me more about what is a iteration, right? So, and it gives you, so even if you don't understand something, you can ask it to clarify, just like you were asking a coach. And so that's why I think it's very, very important that we understand this. And hopefully in the future updates, we will get some sort of confidence scoring, right? In terms of, how relevant is this specific response? Knowing that AI is not always 100% accurate. And I think that's a disclaimer that I'd like to put out too, is there are certain topics that you might find errors in, but being able to give feedback and also being able to associate some sort of confidence vote would make this even more powerful. So let's go ahead and ask a couple more questions. I think the craziest example I saw yesterday on LinkedIn was the fact that you can ask it for Gherkin. So, people who are testing, and I've seen development teams do this. They're trying to come up with test cases, and it takes them, and a gentleman also mentioned in his post, it takes hours to create these test cases. So let's see how long it takes for AI to create a couple of test cases for a related scenario. So let's go ahead and ask. Can you test cases? Can you write me a couple of test cases using Gherkin for a user logging in to a website? Let's see what it does. So again, comes up with this scenario, right? And boom, I think it's there, right? And so similarly, right? Let's say, I think this is also important. Engineers can use this, testers can use this, but let's say when we struggle writing user stories, right? So let's ask AI to see what it would give. And I'm just curious because I haven't really asked this, but could you write me a user story? Actually, let's actually create one and see if we can build on it. So and let's say this is a retail shop. So that's creating a website. So as a customer, I would like to be able to um, log in and have merchandise show up on the website. So again, as a customer, I would like to be able to log in and have merchandise show up on the website that is tailored to me so that I can make my shopping experience better. We can ask it, could you refine this user story or give suggestions on how we can improve it? Now, this is a question that's a little bit complex, but we'll see how AI does. So as a customer, I want to be able to log into the website and see personalized merchandise recommendations based on previous purchases in browsing so that I can easily find products that I'm interested in having a better shopping experience. In this version of the user story, the user's goal is, so again, look how powerful that was. So if I'm a product owner and I want to be able to write, and let's say I'm writing these user stories and I want to get an example, right? And I maybe have a particular user story that I have, and I just want to refine the language so I can make it a little bit more clear. I know I've worked with many product owners, and this can be very, very challenging to come up with what to put in or what to write so that the entire team understands. And look, in the agile space, it's all about how we communicate. It's important that we figure out, what are some of the ways we can really connect with folks in their language. So when you're talking with someone in the tech space, obviously there's a language there that needs to be learned. And I think this actually fills that gap. So again, very, very powerful. Let's see if it will create another story. So let's say create another user. Let's just ask it, can you create another example using the previous story? Sure. So here's another example, all right? So view in this. So again, it used the Gherkin this time, right? So here's another example using the refined user story. View personalized merchandise recommendations. So this is in Gherkin format, the user story here in this example. So again, it goes into detail. So again, very, very powerful. So another question that came up, and I think that's really powerful, and this was actually for people who are creating content. So here's another use case of how you could use AI. So really quickly, someone asked, what is the difference between the traditional way of working versus agile? So again, it'll spit out a kind of a broad answer and then kind of get into details. So I think I really, really like that fact that OpenAI is using a lot of that conversational piece to really set the stage. So again, it says, the traditional way of working, also known as the waterfall model, right, is a linear sequential approach to software development. And it continues to talk about agile, but the key thing here is, like, let's say I don't have time. I mean, obviously you could read this, but let's say you want to create something. So you can actually ask it, can you put this into a table? So this allows you to kind of really quickly be able to tell the differences, right, between the traditional way of working versus agile. So you might take this table and put it on a slide deck to kind of be able to present to the customer you're talking to, or to explain a specific topic. And maybe if it's not for coaches, it could be for team members, right? To be able to easily interact with that. So again, again, the disclaimer here is, we were letting the AI do the deep thing, the thinking here. We want to use our brains, obviously. And so obviously there's much more to this. And I think that's one of the things that I'm excited about as I'm working on a project of my own, is to be able to create, responses that actually have a little bit more in-depth level of thinking in terms of giving the response. So this here is a great, and let's say we can even ask it to give us, multiple examples. So let's say, can you create another table with a different twist? Let's see if it can recognize my language here. So here's another table, right? So traditional way of working, it's like giving a different response, different, it's a different format of that same table, but looking at it from a different perspective. Let's see if it could add. So let's ask it to add more complexity. Can you add more complexity to the table? So here you can see it's trying to really think. I'm really trying to push it to see what it can be done, what can be done. But you can see there's 3 different versions of that same table, right? So now I have all this knowledge that I can work off of. And obviously, yes, you want to cross-check and verify, right? So let's take a look. Traditional way of working, development process is linear and sequential, with each phase completed before the next phase can begin. Development process is iterative and incremental, with small chunks of work before the next phase, completed in a short amount of time, which is pretty accurate. Emphasis on comprehensive planning, detailed documentation, and strict schedules. Where in the agile way, we have emphasis on collaboration, adaptability, and continuous improvement, which is not wrong, right? Which is pretty accurate. And that's why I'm urging all the agile community members to really look into this and to really see how we can use this, right? And how we can quickly fill in those gaps that we have on teams. And the reverse is also true, right? So as an agile coach, there are many topics in the tech space that I don't understand. So this is a great way to even get that understanding. So, like, for example, I can ask, what does, or, let's ask it, how does containerization work in AWS, right? Let's say I'm clearly, team members are talking about something about containerization. Let's see what it says. So again, it comes with a brief example, right? In AWS, containerization refers to the use of containers to package and deploy applications. So again, gives us a real high-level example, and then actually tells you exactly how we can use it, right? So to use container, you first need to create a container. This is a snapshot of the application's code and dependencies that can be used to create. You can then use AWS services, such as it tells what service you can use, right? Elastic Container Service, ECS, or Elastic Kubernetes service to deploy and manage your containers in the cloud. So as a coach, right, even if you, and let's ask it, how would you, let's see if it could dumb it down for us. Can you dumb this down? So here's an explanation of how containerization works, right? So again, it's going to try to make an attempt to see if, now you can see here that it didn't really do a good job, but again, was made an effort. But again, For a coach, this is very powerful too, right? To see how you can really come up with examples, on the fly that you need to either explain to someone or receive information on something that you don't understand, because communication is key. We work with people, and so how we communicate with them and how we collaborate with them is very, very important. So here's some other few examples that I think are pretty powerful using the AI. You can also ask it to explain to a specific persona. So for example, how would I explain what Scrum is to a 10-year-old? And at the Agile Alliance conference this year, I did ask this question to many and captured it. So to 10-year-old. So I asked how would I explain what Agile is, or let's say, how would you actually, how would you explain Agile to a 10-year-old? See what it says. To explain Agile to, you could say Agile is working on projects. So again, it's going to come up with, again, it's trying to use terminology that a 10-year-old would understand, right? Let's see if it could, can you give me another way of explaining this to a 10-year-old? So again, there's a lot of people using this, and so it's quite crazy good. I'm really, really excited of what comes next. All right, so let's see if that did anything. So it changed a few words here and there. Some tokens were changed, but overall, I'd say it's still a pretty robust explanation. So with that, what else can ChatGPT offer? So ChatGPT also offers coding. So for those who would like to code. So for example, let's say I wanted to ask, how can I code? I used to do this. How can I code in Python? And you can specify language here in Python to extract information from Jira to be able to create plots using ggplot, we'll say, for example, and see how well this does. So again, it'll tell you exactly what needs to be done. It will give you the explanation of how it can be done, and also give you an example of the code, right? And I think this is very helpful for those of you who are new to, like, let's say someone out of the box wanted to do this, right? Again, you can take this, implement it yourself, read through it. Is it perfect? I would say probably it is as good as it can get, but you may need to kind of do a little bit of modification here and there to kind of figure out how does this all work and how does this all get put together. But again, you can see that it's giving a full explanation of how you would do that and how you would perform that task. So again, I'm not saying that AI is doing it for you. You still have to intervene and you still have to read through it. You still have to do it. But it's it at least gives you the starting point of where to start. So the coding aspect of it is very complex. It's actually pretty good, even in, this is not related to the agile aspect of it, but we check some bioinformatics aspects of it as well. And I was actually quite impressed that it was able to even, perform bioinformatics operations as well. So again, tells you how powerful this tool is and how we could possibly leverage it in the future as we're making strides in using AI. So again, very, very excited. I think there are some limitations that are there, but I hope that you found some value in this. There are multiple use cases that you can use this for. You can also, like we went over the user story example, but let's try asking it, hey, if I have multiple user stories, can you give me an example of, so can you give me an example of how, of, let's say, if I can you give me an example of how I would make an epic all the time? So again, see, look, it gave us the epic and possible user stories under that epic. And so giving this example, right, we can really work with the example that we have to be able to kind of practice, right? So let's see, and let's ask it to give me an example that is related to, let's say, tech. I don't know what will happen, but let's see if it will follow up on that. So again, while it's thinking, I want to say, I hope you guys found this content informational. So here, let's see what it says. So here's an example of epic related to tech. Enhance the mobile app. So again, it took that, gave us one example. Now it's giving us another example, and that too tech related for someone to understand. So I love the aspect that you can ask from multiple personas or multiple perspectives to be able to get a robust response. So something to start off with, right? So hopefully, like I was saying, I hope you guys like this content. I'm, planning to make more content like this, trying to leverage new technologies, emerging technologies in the work that we do. And as coaches and, in the community, in the Agile community, we need to adapt to change. And this is a change that is coming. Whether we embrace it or not, I think there are many, many companies that are starting to embrace AI. I was actually looking at Google Trend, the amount of searches that happened in 2022 versus crypto versus AI. AI has gotten a lot of searches. So we know that there is, we're forecasting a trend that AI is going to be more and more popular as we get to unlock more things like this. And I'm really, again, with great things comes great responsibility. And I think, that would be interesting to see how AI is regulated in some aspect, and how, again, working with those limitations. But overall, I think it's powerful to be used in this use case. And definitely, if you guys have any questions or want to learn more about it, there are also many, many companies out there. My one particular company that I'm a big fan of is Hyperwrite.ai. They also have a chatbot that using GPT in the background. But again, it can be used for what we do, especially when we're creating content or trying to explain content in multiple different perspectives. I think this is the way that we should go. Again, it's my opinion, but I know there are many people out there. I've talked to a lot of folks over the last week. I think one of the questions that comes up popularly is that, does this remove the ability for us to think? And to that question, I think it does in some aspects, but I also think it also triggers more, allows us to think even more if used in that sense, right? So with multiple responses from AI to validate, to kind of cross-check, and to get multiple perspectives, my brain is thinking, okay, well, what type of questions do I need to ask, right, to make this a meaningful experience? And I think that's another thing when it comes to a chatbot service like this. It's like how you ask those questions become really, really important. So hope you enjoyed the content in this video. Please do follow and subscribe if you like content like this. I will be launching this YouTube channel, Agile with Snehal. You can follow me on Instagram, again, Agile with Snehal, and on TikTok. As I start this new year, going into the new year, I think that's my focus, is creating content for everyone to be able to help us all transform together and learn together. So with that, thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. And really would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about ChatGPT and how you might be using it in your space, or even if you're in the Agile community, what are some other use cases that we can test this with? And so with that, signing off. Thanks for listening. This is Agile with Snehal.